Thanks for choosing to listen to this Late Night Linux Family podcast. We're only able to do this because of the people who support us. None of our shows are paywalled, but our Patreon supporters can get most episodes early and never hear any ads. Learn more at latenightlinux.com/support or support us by telling a friend or colleague about everything we do. Hello and welcome to episode 396 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 27th of July 2026. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
Suno stole my riffs.
Graham.
Hello.
And Will.
Hello.
We don't care about that, Phelim.
They owe me millions.
I'm sure they do. Before we get going, exciting news. We're doing another piss-up at the Shipwrights Arms next to London Bridge Station in London, this time on Saturday the 5th of September, from 5 p.m. until late.
No Felix is allowed this time, making me look bad. Shower bastards.
So yes, all welcome. Nothing formal, nothing arranged, just it's a pub. We'll go there, we'll have some drinks, we'll have a laugh, and I'll disappear probably around midnight when the last train is. And Will, you've got to get up the next day, so you're going to try and come, but maybe a bit early.
Yeah, I'll probably be there from 5 and then clock off probably about 7ish, I should think.
All right, well, I might miss you then. I'll have to make an effort to get there early. But yeah, either way, link in the show notes to post on Mastodon with a link to the location, but it's right next to London Bridge Station. Pretty easy for everyone to get to. As I say, on Mastodon, be there and be square. Saturday, 5th of September. Right, we have avoided talking about AI shit for quite a while, but a few things have kind of come together and we're going to have to talk about it again, unfortunately. The first one, Linux is not one of those anti-AI projects, and if someone has issues with that, they can do the open source thing and fork it. So this was a mailing list post from Linus, and it's really quite disappointing to me. You know, he says things like, this is not some kind of social warrior project, never has been, never will be. And he talks about how AI coding wasn't that good maybe a year ago, but now is really good. And if you don't believe that, then you've obviously not used it, and just all of the tropes, basically. So before I give you my fucking rant about this, what do you all think about it?
I think it's a very pragmatic choice. The Linux kernel gets bigger by hundreds, if not thousands of lines a week. Keeping all of that software tested, maintained, in sync, working across all of the different additions that are coming from hardware vendors and just kernel hackers all over the world, I think it's an impossible task. So the fact that you can use AI to assist you in keeping the Linux kernel as functional and as working and as fast as it possibly can be, I think that that is a smart choice. And I think that using I don't know what they're called, like the hacking models that are deliberately designed to find an exploit and chain together all of these very small exploits into something much, much bigger is actually the most important thing that could be added to the kernel at the moment, is finding those bugs and fixing them before they get exploited. If you think about how many Linux kernels there are running absolutely mission critical infrastructure and like critical to your well-being as well out there in the world, if somebody owned all of those through an exploit, it would destroy humanity, I say. So I think it's a good idea.
Okay. I mean, there are a few related stories. Codeberg have effectively banned the use of LLMs for projects that are hosted on their platform. Debian is voting again on LLM usage in the project. So, you know, there are people who are taking an ethical stand here, seemingly, against this stuff, and Torvalds is not one of them.
So I had a thing with Torvalds' take on it being a tool. He did this before with BitKeeper, and BitKeeper was the pragmatic choice, not the sort of FOSS choice, and that was a bit of a mess. Now, the advantage is we got Git out of that in the end, so it all worked out. But I do worry about code generation and the lack of, you know, assignability to where it came from and stuff. I think the security piece, if you can sort of attack code with it or use it as a linter type thing where it doesn't actually generate code for you, I think is a potentially quite valuable tool, especially if you get a local run one. I think that's even better. But I think there's still a few questionable things there. I think he's taken quite the extreme far side of it, which is a bit disappointing when you see the sponsors involved. That, was this actually Linus doing it, or was he trumped out on a thing to make a statement based on, here, look, you get paid by these lot. Make sure you sound up for it. I don't know.
He would not do that.
Well, I don't know. I don't think he would. No, but it doesn't look good.
To you.
I think in general it doesn't look good. When one is very up for, you want to give a peace prize that you don't have as a football unit, and you give that to the president of another country. That doesn't look like that should be a thing.
You cancel a red card, perhaps. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Aye.
Now, often when people talk about this, they'll say, we'll put in the ethics aside. Well, no, we're not going to. I'm not going to let the ethics just go aside. So I'm going to read you a list that I made, right?
Are these the lists of countries that the UK dominated through imperialism?
Yes, it is. Yes.
I hope first.
Right. Ireland. No, anyway.
Hey!
First of all, they use an incredible amount of energy and water, generally speaking. Certainly the frontier models, the likes of what Anthropic and OpenAI are doing. And therefore there are environmental consequences, like we're seeing right now in Europe and all over the world, as the world literally burns. They are built with stolen IP. They just steal intellectual property from all over the internet and they launder licenses. And we need to not forget that. The circular financing of all this shit should be fucking criminal as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how they get away with it. Well, I do, because it's rich people being rich people. These companies, bots, DDoS websites and services. I mean, I had to really fuck around with our website and move loads of stuff to a CDN because it was getting scraped. And we've seen loads of people getting their sites and services DDoSed. It's run by fascist billionaires who want to sell people intelligence on a meter. It atrophies your brain. We've seen loads of studies about that. Most importantly, when it comes to development and other stuff, you are giving up the means of production and you should not do that. And also maintainers are drowning in slop bug reports. And also it's made all of computer hardware ridiculously expensive. So I think we need to keep all of that in mind when we discuss this shit. Just as a bit of a refresher there.
The price of hardware going through the roof is a very valid concern and has annoyed me personally. Everything else is fine.
The one I would like to put in is the fact that new people are not going to be able to learn how to code properly because we're taking away all the low-hanging fruit with stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. If you eliminate the job of junior developer, for example, then where the fuck are the senior developers going to come from?
I think the problem I have with a lot of the stuff, though, is the fact that if they want to be trusted to do, code reviews or things like that, like the reason you trust the seatbelt in your car is that it's regulated. They don't want to be regulated, and I think that is a big problem. And the fact that you don't, just trust something, you trust if something has been checked and tested. I mean, I think that's quite a hard one to sway against each other. And I think I'm less extreme maybe than I was previously by the fact that I know I don't have to use it, so it's less painful for me. But
Right. So I don't have to use it either, and I think that's because you and I, Fairname, are very privileged. We have this privilege to be ethical in our choice not to use it. Whereas you two, Graham and Will, and thousands of other people listening to this and millions of people across the world feel that they have to use generative AI for fear of losing their livelihood. Whether that is directly a company like Red Hat mandating that you've got to do it, you've got to use these tools, or a sense of, shit, if I don't use these tools, then I'm going to be kind of left behind or whatever, and someone who's using these tools will effectively take my job. I mean, is that fair to say that me and Phelim have got this privilege and you two don't? Am I putting you on the spot by asking you this question? Like, is it a bastard question to ask you?
I think that while it's fair to say that workplaces are encouraging the use of AI for not entirely transparent reasons, using it day to day does save me time, does make me more productive, does solve real problems that I have every day. It does save me time. It also enables me to do things that I wouldn't otherwise be able to do. Solve problems or, write software. So it is a tool, but it is a tool that offers genuine value. In the same way that I didn't think VS Code was really for me because it had a menu and, Nano was perfectly good for everything, or gedit was perfectly good text editor, code editor, and I still believe it is, but it's not as good as VS Code, and that is just a fact. And I think that doing all of those tasks that used to be, searching through some data source of some kind for hours on end, refining searches and refining and getting the data out and exporting it into an intermediate format and writing a script to scrape it. All of those hours of effort to find out a piece of information can be done in seconds. And I need to save those hours in my life because I just don't have the time or even the capacity to think about these problems. So it is fair to say that I have outsourced some of my thinking to AI. That is true. But I don't think it's stuff that I want to be doing anyway.
Do you want me to go down the list again of all the fucking reasons why you shouldn't use it, though? Like, you jokingly said, at least I hope it was a joke, that you don't care about all the other stuff apart from the price of hardware. But, are you not even slightly concerned about the environmental impact, the theft of the IP, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, of course I am concerned about it.
But not enough.
Well, no, I guess not, right? Otherwise I wouldn't be using it. So no is the answer. I'm not concerned enough. I think that my personal well-being is important, and I think that I do my bit to offset the damage done, and I think I justify it to myself that way.
Right. Similar boat, Graham?
I agree with a lot of what Will said. I think this conversation is a bit of a trap. Because you're just going to get on your high horse and tell us all what you think regardless. And I do think that we have an obligation to speak for the health and longevity of the Linux and open source system, and just closing our minds to what's happening isn't going to move anything closer to resolution. And I think you should probably just fork the Linux kernel and have fun with it.
Like I said, I am in a very privileged position that I don't feel any obligation to use this for my work. There is nothing that it could do to save me time or make me more productive as far as I'm concerned. Nothing that I would want to do. That makes me very privileged. And I feel that Torvalds, in his financial position, I mean, I've not seen his accounts, but, I know how much he earns, and it's quite a lot. The fella is doing all right. He doesn't need to work. He could say, fuck you to the Linux Foundation and just quit if the big list of shit that I talked about mattered to him. But clearly, this is him saying, none of that matters enough to me to say, fuck you.
I don't think it's that. What change are you going to affect from taking this stance? That's why Linus's answer is quite pragmatic. As much as I agree with a lot of your reservations, it's too late. What about the advantages that you get from living in a rich country that benefits from all of the things it did in the past? Why haven't you moved somewhere else to try to change that? What are you going to do to change this? Just putting your hands over your ears and pretending it's not happening isn't going to help. And you haven't got enough influence to change anything.
I think that's the biggest problem, is the fact that I've looked into using local stuff and whatever, but every time I see output from people showing me ChatGPT stuff, it actually makes my blood boil the way it even phrases the stuff in that cutesy fucking addictive talk back to you text way. It's just annoying, but it's like you can't do anything. You can't win by not using it, and you can't win if you're, trying to use it anyway. You're fucked either way. Either a rich guy owns your tools, or you're going to get slowly, made less relevant because something will take it or whatever. And assuming they don't all implode in the next couple of years anyway.
Well, which I think is quite likely. We've been over that before. I think you make reasonable points, Graham and Will. But if we were doing a colonialism now, I wouldn't be very fucking happy about it, would I? I'd be ranting against it.
But I don't think the ranting is going to change the dial on where it's going. Maybe this is a difference of approach. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but what I always try and do is change the dial a small amount over a longer period of time. I don't actually think ranting is going to change the direction of this. Much better to, in some ways, own it as much as you can to subvert the direction in some small way.
Yeah, it's the danger of becoming Stallman, really, is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a hard place to be because, like, even if you do completely disagree with it, what do you do? Just do nothing? I mean, I don't even know how to answer that. I don't know what to do.
Well, you do pragmatic stuff like Codeberg, like them saying, we don't want these projects that are just slop, basically, with no users, taking up loads of resources with CI/CD and whatnot. Like, no, fuck you. If that's what you're looking to do, go and do it elsewhere or self-host or whatever.
And to be honest, I think that was actually fair enough from what they said, because the thing is, even that someone could take their code and run Forjo somewhere else with no issue. So I've seen some people kind of complaining about that, but it's like, I don't see that as overly a big issue because that's fine. They can take their stance. It's a hard one because I worry about a lot of projects that are, you know, it's made it so easy to contribute now with the likes of an LLM that, you know, people are getting burnt out because it's so easy. And then what do they do on that end? It's like, it's shit every way you look at this.
It is shit every way you look at it. But at least I can say to myself in 20 years ago, I stood up and said, no, fuck this shit.
Yeah, on this thing, what about all the other things that you're complicit in? Just because you've chosen to die on this virtual hill. What about the respect? Linus has handled the Linux kernel from the beginning. Where's the respect for everything that he's done and his thinking around this? If this was an overburdening imposition on the project, I'm sure he would say no. His thinking is that there's some pragmatic utility in it, at least at the moment. Why not trust in his position rather than immediately say, this is all shit?
Because even if there is utility, at what cost? I laid out the costs.
At what cost is anything? What is real in the cost of things? What is real for the cost of your peace and democracy?
Yeah, I don't know, you've probably beaten me with your arguments, ultimately, but I'm not going to change my mind on this. Like, I think that it is one of the worst things that has happened in the technological space ever, if not the worst thing that has ever happened.
Since the atom bomb?
Okay, in the information technology space, let's say. Since Cambridge Analytica, let's say, it's the worst thing. Since social media or whatever. Like, I think it's a real net negative for the world. And I understand that it's like you can do all this practical stuff and save yourself time so that you can go to endless meetings instead of working. Like, that's fine. I get that. But it doesn't make it not a net negative for the world.
I think it's a bit like a car. You know, if you work from home, you don't have to drive a car. You don't have to use petrol. But people who live long distances from their job do. And, you know, you can't sort of shout abuse at them, I suppose, is possibly a way of looking at it.
No, which is why I'm not criticizing you two, Graham and Will, for using it. I'm criticizing Torvalds because I think he does have the privilege to care about the ethics like I do and like Fainham does and be able to say, fuck you, I'm not using this. But he doesn't, whereas you two, and like I said, thousands of people who listen to us and millions of people around the world are not in that position. They're in a shit situation where they are effectively forced to use this fascist bullshit. And that's, you know, I understand that and I understand my privilege here. But I think that people who do have the privilege that I have ought to at least speak up about it.
Recently, there have been some developments in mathematics which I don't claim to understand, but which have eluded feeble human brains for a long, long time, and AI has come along and sorted. I have no idea what the practical upshot of this is, if anything. But it seems like the best chance we've got of solving climate change, curing cancer, and so on, is going to be AI. And so what would it take for you to say, you know what, that sacrifice was worth it?
I think it's a pretty shit endorsement of our skills that we managed to come up with a system so crap and so power hungry that it can't even do this. Like, when you're looking at the 32 billion models and the best I can manage is a bit of shite Python.
That's just simply wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly interested in how good it is, because it is useful for certain things, and when used correctly you can do some really good stuff with it. I mean, one of the arguments early on was the drug discovery thing, and there are now trials going on for, I think, like antivirals or some sort of drug to do with COVID, I think, and probably loads of others that are a direct result of generative AI. And fine, yeah, that is a positive, but in the round overall, I don't know that I can say that it's worth it. And, you know, the stuff that you are being helped with at work, I mean, ultimately, I don't think it's worth it. You clearly do, by the sounds of things, and that's fine, but I don't think it's worth it.
I think I understand your point, and I can relate to it, and I agree with your point that if you don't have to day to day, then you shouldn't. And I think that's a fair point to stand on. And I think good for you. But would you change your mind if next week it came out with a cure for cancer?
I suppose, but I just don't think that it will. So I just don't think that that's a relevant argument. Like,
I think that's a big problem, is the fact that what they're selling and what they're actually presenting aren't remotely the same thing. I don't doubt that there's value for people to use it to speed things up, whatever. But is it worth the crazy amounts of stuff that gets put into it? Like, could you not develop a drug-based machine learning program that would be so much more efficient, that could run so much faster if all it did was fucking use combining of proteins, whatever, I don't know, rather than a fucking giant language model? Like, it's such a abstractly, they're trying to make this general AI nonsense that's never going to happen with this type of technology, according to people who are smarter than I will caveat that with.
But I think that's the consumer arm that you're looking at, right? We are not plugged into all of the physics models that are being built, all the drug discovery models that are being built, all the, I don't know, the models of aircraft engines that are being built that are going to generate 17% more efficient engines and save 1 billion tons of CO2 a year or whatever. We just don't know about those.
Well, they do say that that's going to happen. It hasn't happened, though.
not yet, but it could.
I mean, it could, sure. Equally, like, I could come up with a cure for something by mistake tomorrow. Like, do you know why scientific discovery is kind of weird in the way it works?
Mm.
Yeah, you might leave a petri dish open and then suddenly there's a bunch of mold on it and like, fuck me, I've discovered an entirely new branch of medicine, effectively.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, the problem is the people who are in charge of these companies are, quite frankly, awful human beings. They're not on the murderer sort of scale, but they are terrible examples of treating people decently in a lot of cases, or
Fair.
lying through their arse, or manipulation and fraud. So it's kind of hard to be on anything that they say being a good thing. And that's the problem. I think it's a tainted technology by those who are involved in it. It's like owning a Tesla now. When they first came out, yeah, it seemed kind of cool. Oh, wow, electric car. But now you own one, you just go, oh, fuck.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. Graham, your argument essentially boils down to no ethical consumption under capitalism, which is a fair argument, but it is also a bit of a cop-out, I think.
As we said before, I respect your position, but ultimately I think your position is going to do more damage than good, because I think things have changed as a result of this technology and there's no going back, regardless of whatever scale that might be. And you disengaging, I see this as a disengagement from a new generation of open source or Linux users who will just not understand your point of view and turn off completely from it.
I agree with you that things have changed and they're probably never going back, but things have changed for the worse, not for the better, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not happy about it, and I'm not going to fucking pretend otherwise.
Yeah, I can't agree or disagree with that, honestly. I mean, things change all the time. I don't know whether it's for the good or the bad, but I'm just trying to respond to the reality of the situation. And I want some control over what happens and to have some control, I feel like I need to have some kind of mental investment in what's happening.
Yeah. Like I said, you feel obliged to do it.
It's not an obligation. This is the same as I've approached everything in life. You know, it's understanding the technology to be able to criticize it. It's understanding what it's capable of, to be able to see its weaknesses and to be able to take advantage of any gaps, to know that, you know, we'll be left with a world of open weight models and decent enough LLMs we can run locally.
The open weight models argument, not wishing to sidetrack too much, is very interesting, given that China have just released an open weights model, which is competing at the top level. This is a really fun time to watch what happens now, where China are releasing things that you can run at home for free that are competing directly with OpenAI and Anthropic. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. This is where open source and free software is really going to start hitting the big time, I think.
Well, if Graham is right and I effectively drive everyone away and people stop listening, people stop supporting on Patreon, fuck it, so be it.
I don't think you'll drive anyone away. I think you've got a lot of people supporting you doing this, but I don't think it'll grow.
If you were to look from your side, Graham, what would you suggest for someone who doesn't like the whole way it's going? Is it literally a case of tough shit, you're fucked? Because I do go through moments of that routinely where I have to look at things and go, I could see me getting a job in Tesco's, not that there's anything wrong with that, but like I'll be worth packing shelves, because any of the skills that I've spent my career building are being, well, if you believe the selling of it, you know, it's just a case of ask the LLM, it'll know everything.
I don't know. I think my personal position is that I am deeply skeptical, but I stay part of the conversation. In being part of the conversations like this at work, I want to be critical of what's happening and the output that's generated. I want to remain skeptical, but also part of the conversation.
Well, I have another career I can go back to that pays better than this and is not affected by this AI bullshit, because it was a fucking real job that I used my hands for. So if it comes to it, I can just say, fuck you all, and do a literal mic drop. So I think that's what drives me, is that like I can do this with you lot, or I can go and do the other thing. And for me, it's not like a shit paying job, like working in Tesco or whatever. I've got a good job I can go back to. So I don't give a fuck. I'm going to keep ranting about this shit until I'm blue in the fucking face. And on that positive note, we should probably get out of here. We'll be back next week when who knows what it'll be. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been out of a job.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.